we're going to continue with our basic needle felting. Last time we went ahead and made our egg shape, which can be the basis for many different creatures. So last time we saw some examples, the penguin, the Dracula, and it can even be the base for some more complex shapes. It can be the base for the larger dog here. There's the mama dog and the puppy dog. Or even something like the Rudolph. You start with an egg shape for the body. But today we're going to make something a little simpler. So we're going to start out with one of these guys. Now these are Yetis or abominable snowman. Today we don't have any of our white color, so we're going to improvise and make some Bigfoots. So as you remember, we started with our lime green, and the only reason we did that is because we were out of the core batting. But it also goes to show that it doesn't really matter what color you start with in your core, because most likely you're going to cover it up anyway. Alright, so after we have our loose egg shape, what we want to do is take our needle and our foam, and we're going to tighten up that shape. You want it to be about as firm as your piece of foam when you're finished. It doesn't have to be that firm right at the start because you're going to continue needling it as you add parts on. So right now I'm going to kind of even out this shape, and if you look at our little Yeti, you can see that I want to turn our egg a little bit more square and kind of just get some of the lumps out of him. And this is going to take a few minutes to kind of just shape him. If you want to, at a certain point, you can do some long stabs. That really gets him cleaned up there. It gets out those lumps and it makes sure that he stays together. It's important as you're shaping it to make sure that you keep turning it. That way he comes out to be an even shape and he's not lopsided. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing this. And once you've got it kind of into the shape that you want, you can go ahead and look at the bottom. Now you'll notice that our finished Yeti sits up very nicely, and that's because I flattened his bottom. So we're going to want to do the same thing with this one. It's pretty flat, but it's not going to stand up too nicely. So go ahead and hold it with the bottom facing up and just kind of flatten that out a little bit. It's going to get smaller the more that you needle felt, so make sure that you start with enough wool to make it a size that you're looking for. I like to make small shapes in general, but it's up to you. The bigger ones are a little bit easier. It's easier to get the details in there. And then once you flatten it out a little bit, you can kind of go around and just clean up those edges. There we go. Now the good thing about the Yeti is that if you'll notice, he has this loose fur on the outside because we want to give him that fuzzy effect. And so that means that we don't have to shape our base as exactly as we might with some other characters. Okay, so for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next step, which is going to be adding the color for the face. Now for this Bigfoot, I'm going to use this light brown wool batting. So just what you want to do is tear off a little piece, and this part's going to be a little different than when you made your egg shape. So I'm going to decide which side I want the face to be. You can see here it's going to be a little oval like the blue part that we have here. And I'm going to we can tear this in half. We have a little bit too much. Sometimes I like to fold it in half so it's a little thicker and you can't see through it. Now the important thing with this is that you want to have some fairly straight edges. So I like to fold my bit over, hold it in place tightly against the egg, and then just do the edges to begin with. Don't worry so much about the part in the middle because you want to make sure that you get that straight edge. After you have the straight edge, you can move in and kind of put down some of the part in the middle, stick that part down. And then you're going to continue around with all of your edges. So hold it down around this little corner. I'm just trying to get kind of the cleanest looking oval shape that I can get. And it's okay if we don't get it right the first time because we can always go in and add some more wool and just clean that up. Okay, so keep going around your oval, and if you get to a point and you see that you have a lot of extra wool, you can pull some of that off. We don't need all that today. Okay, so just continue around the circle, trying to keep your edges just as clean as possible. It's always easier if we just start with clean edges as much as we can instead of going back and doing it later. It just saves us some time. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to keep going around here. And don't worry at this point if you can see lots of the needle holes. That's going to happen as you're going through the process, and I'll show you how you can clean that up to make your finished project. Okay, so we're going to kind of stick it in there, and you can see this is still rough, but we have the basic round shape that we're going to use for the face. So what you're going to want to do is kind of clean this up, and you can do that by doing some really shallow needling over the surface. That's not going to leave as many marks. It's going to get down some of those stray fibers and just make it look nice and neat. So why don't you do that for your face, and then when we come back, we're going to add the brown color. It's going to be some of this color around for his fur, and we're going to give him some of the little arms that we see on the side. So that will be in our next video. In our final video, we'll add the finishing touches of the eyes, mouth, and teeth. Thanks for watching.